Welcome to Bhagavad-Gita as it is. We are on the introduction. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yat kripa tamham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhyevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. So, as explained before, there are different kinds of transcendentalists, the Brahmavadi, Paramatmavadi, and devotee. And as mentioned in the Brahma Jyoti spiritual sky, there are innumerable spiritual planets. The number of these planets is far, far greater than all of the planets of this material world. This material world has been approximated as only 1/4 of the creation. Ekam Shena Sthito Jagat. In this material segment, there are millions and billions of universes with trillions of planets and suns, stars, and moons. But this whole material creation is only a fragment of the total creation. Most of the creation is in the spiritual sky. One who desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Brahman is at once transferred to the Brahma Jyoti of the Supreme Lord and thus attains the spiritual sky. The devotee who wants to enjoy the association of the Lord enters into the Vaikuntha planets, which are innumerable, and the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expansions, as Narayan with 4 hands and with different names like Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Govinda, associates with him there. Therefore, at the end of life, the transcendentalists think either of the Brahmajyoti, the Paramatma, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. In all cases, they enter into the spiritual sky, but only the devotee, or he who is in personal touch with the Supreme Lord, enters into the Vaikuntha planets or the Golok Vrindavan planet. The Lord further adds that of this there is no doubt. This must be believed firmly. We should not reject that which does not tally with our imagination. Our attitude should be that of Arjun. I believe everything that you have said. Therefore, when Lord says that at the time of death, whoever thinks of him as Brahman or Paramatma, or as the personality of Godhead, certainly enters into the spiritual sky. There is no doubt about it. There is no question of disbelieving it. The Bhagavad-Gita 8.6 also explains the general principle that makes it possible to enter the spiritual kingdom simply by thinking of the Supreme at the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavan tyajati anta kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state without fail. Now, first we must understand that material nature is a display of one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. In Vishnu Puran, the total energies of the Supreme Lord are delineated. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Jnakya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samajananya Tritya Shaktir Ishyate. The Supreme Lord has diverse and innumerable energies which are beyond our conception. However, great learned sages or liberated souls have studied these energies and have analyzed them into 3 parts. All the energies are of Vishnu Shakti, that is to say, they are different potencies of Lord Vishnu. The first energy is Para, transcendental. Living entities also belong to the superior energy, as already has been explained. The other energies or material energies are in the mode of ignorance. At the time of death, either we can remain in the inferior energy of the material world, or we can transfer to the energy of the spiritual world. So the Bhagavad-Gita 8.6 says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state without fail. In life, we are accustomed to thinking either of the material or of spiritual energy. Now, how can we transfer our thoughts from the material energy to the spiritual energy? There are so many literatures which fill our thoughts with the material energy, newspapers, magazines, novels, etc. Our thinking, which is now absorbed in these literatures, must be transferred to the Vedic literatures. The sages therefore have written so many Vedic literatures such as the Puranas. The Puranas are not imaginative, they are historical records. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.122, there is the following verse: Maya Mugdha Jivera Nahi Swatah Krishna Jnana Jivere Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Purana. The forgetful living entities or conditioned souls have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord, and they are engrossed in the thinking of material activities. Just to transfer their thinking power to the spiritual, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa has given a great number of Vedic literatures. First, he divided the Vedas into 4, then he explained them in the Puranas, and for less capable people, he wrote the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there is given the Bhagavad-Gita. Then all Vedic literature is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra, and for future guidance, he gave natural commentation on the Vedanta Sutra called Srimad Bhagavatam. We must always engage our minds in reading these Vedic literatures, just as materialists engage their minds in reading newspapers, magazines, and so many materialistic literatures. We must transfer our reading to these literatures which are given to us by Vyasadeva. In that way, it will be possible for us to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. That is the only way suggested by the Lord, and he guarantees the result, there is no doubt. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya cha mai arpita mano buddhir mam evashyasi asamshayah. Therefore, Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time continue your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Bhagavad-Gita 8.7. He does not advise Arjun simply to remember him and give up his occupation. No, the Lord never suggests anything impractical. In this material world, in order to maintain the body, one has to work. Human society is divided according to work into 4 divisions of social order: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. The Brahman class or intelligent class is working in one way, the Kshatriya administrative class is working in another way, and the mercantile class and the laborers are all tending to their specific duties. In human society, whether one is a laborer, merchant, administrator, or farmer, or even if one belongs to the highest class and is a literary man, a scientist, or a theologian, he has to work in order to maintain his existence. The Lord therefore tells Arjun that he need not give up his occupation, but while he is engaged in his occupation, he should remember Krishna, Mam Anusmara. He does not practice remembering Krishna. If he doesn't practice remembering Krishna while he is struggling for existence, then it will not be possible for him to remember Krishna at the time of death. Lord Chaitanya also advises this. He says, Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should practice chanting the names of the Lord always. The names of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. So Lord Krishna's instructions to Arjun to remember me and Lord Chaitanya's injunction to always chant the name of the Lord Krishna are the same instruction. There is no difference because Krishna and Krishna's name are non-different. In the absolute status, there is no difference between reference and the referent. Therefore, we have to practice remembering the Lord always, 24 hours a day, by chanting his names and molding our life activities in such a way that we can remember him always. Now, how this is possible? The Acharyas give the following example. If a married woman is attached to another man, or if a man has an attachment for a woman other than his wife, then the attachment to be considered very strong. One with such an attachment is always thinking of the loved one. The wife who is thinking of a lover is always thinking of meeting him, even while she is carrying out her household chores. In fact, she carries out her household work even more carefully so her husband will never suspect of her attachment. Similarly, we should always remember the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and at the same time perform our material duties very nicely. A strong sense of love is required here. If we have a strong sense of love for the Supreme Lord, then we can discharge our duty at the same time remember him, but we have to develop that sense of love. Arjun, for instance, was always thinking of Krishna. He was the constant companion of Krishna and at the same time he was a warrior. Krishna did not advise him to give up fighting and go to the forest to meditate. When Lord Krishna delineates the yoga system to Arjun, Arjun says that the practice of this system is not possible for him. Arjuna vacha yo yam yogas tvaya proktas samayena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalavat sthitim sthiram. Bhagavad-Gita 6.33. Arjun said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. But Lord says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinantaratma atmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatmo mataha. Of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Bhagavad-Gita 6.47. So one who thinks of the Supreme Lord always is the greatest yogi, the supermost jnani, and the greatest devotee at the same time. The Lord further tells Arjun that as a Kshatriya, he cannot give up his fighting, but if Arjun fights remembering Krishna, then he will not be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. I'll repeat that. The Lord tells Arjun that as a Kshatriya, he cannot give up his fighting, but if Arjun fights remembering Krishna, then he will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. But one must be completely surrendered in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. We work not with our body actually, but with our mind and intelligence. So if the intelligence and mind are always engaged in the thought of the Supreme Lord, then naturally the senses are also engaged in his service. Superficially at least, the activities of the senses remain the same, but the consciousness is changed. The Bhagavad-Gita teaches one how to absorb the mind and the intelligence in the thought of the Lord. Such absorption will enable one to transfer himself to the kingdom of the Lord. If the mind is engaged in Krishna's service, then the senses are automatically engaged in his service. This is the art and this is also the secret of Bhagavad-Gita. Total absorption in the thought of Sri Krishna. So Sri Krishna has told us the art to stay absorbed in the remembrance and the serving of Krishna is to dovetail everything we are doing to him. So whatever we are doing, we should think that we are doing that for Krishna. Then this becomes the secret of the Bhagavad Gita, of total absorption in the thought of Sri Krishna. So we'll continue from here tomorrow. Thank you for joining. I think it's Narayan Keshav Prabhu. Have a blessed day ahead. Hare Krishna.